So welcome to another YCS morning. Just woke up to see that the team of Christopher LeBlanc, Hani Jawari, and Hisam Jawari winning the Team YCS in Las Vegas. Very notable YCS with the Tier 0 format lingering around and looming above the entire event. Fire Kings are extremely prevalent, Snake Eyes as well. I think the majority of the finals tables was actually pure Snake Eye, but we're going to talk about that later when we look at some deck lists. Before we begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel because we're doing these types of videos all the time. Before we start, make sure to check out the new Cyanogen collection from sleevechief.de. 5% off using code GALZO5. Amazing Dragon Ball Z accessories. So check that out before you, after you watch this video. So let's talk a little bit about what happened throughout this event, some tech cards, some of the games, the meta, and let's just discuss it. I think overall, this was, I think in terms of coverage, this event was like just okay. I think some of the feature matches and mainly like day one were, you know, I think they were trying to like veer away from showing Fire King because they knew that they're going to see so many fire decks in the top cut. So they were just featuring like Pearly, Kashira. And honestly, I don't think that was great coverage. I think the team did a good job. Like the casters are good. Billy and Tombox and Pheromone on the team. But overall, I think day one was kind of boring. But day one is usually boring, especially in a Team YCS environment. And they, you know, they could have switched it around with the tables, but they kind of didn't. And day one was like kind of a snooze. Day two was, I think, fine because we got to see a lot of good gameplay. I think this format really offers a lot of good gameplay, and we've seen it in the top tables. You see skilled duelists like Pak Hani having it out in the finals. I think the semifinals was Pak versus Kamal, which is his teammate from YCS Costa Rica, which he won a YCS with last week. So, you know, that's a great show of talent. Let's talk about some tech choices, some notable cards that people played. Obviously, Fire meta, over 75% representation, I believe, which is crazy. And obviously, a Tier 0 deck. Done and dusted. There it is. So I think one of the funnier techs that we saw Pak use was actually Lullaby of Obedience. So we were talking about Lullaby of Obedience in our first episode of the meta forecast. So make sure, if you want to know the real goo before everybody else, make sure to watch the forecast because we covered Lullaby of Obedience in the Fire King mirror a month ago. So it was a new tech. It was relatively new in the TCG, and it works because Lullaby of Obedience, you call a card name, your opponent either gives you that card from your deck or summons it to your field. In the mirror, especially in this type of mirror, it is extremely impactful and strong because you can call Snake Eye Ash, you grab it, and it's your one card starter. So that's kind of amazing. We also saw Typhoon in day one. I think Chansey Squiddy was playing it. Another card that I played last week in my playmat tournament, figuring that it's an imperm for spells against decks like Fire King on their turn. Especially if they have like one continuous spell monster and the Fire King Island, or just against Barrier of the Voiceless Voice. It's an imperm, it's a quick play from the hand, it's a trap, which is kind of amazing, I think. So Typhoon is interesting. In a Tier 0 format, if you're going into a tournament that is like, you know, Tier 0 in representation, like here, you want to be focused on the mirror. So this is why Lullaby of Obedience is like incredible. And then we saw in the winners deck list, we're going to take a look at that in a second. You know what, let's do that right now. The winners deck lists, the Jawari brothers team. So we see here Hisam playing Pure, right? This was the Pure variant. Hani playing Fire King. But this list does not have Kirans. There's only Garunix, Arvada, and Ponix. So I believe based on what the casters told after the finals, it seems like this might have been a decklist error, not including the Kirans. Still won YCS, which is crazy. And then we have Chris LeBlanc, who was on 2 Kirans. So assumingly this was the correct list. We are seeing Ambler Whale being removed from the Snake Eye list, and we're seeing Summon Limit in the place of Anti-Spell. I think Summon Limit is better than Anti-Spell against specifically the Fire King matchup because you can play around it. Pure, specifically, don't even have to, search for the original Sinful Spoils. They don't have to activate it because you have access. You just don't need to go into Jet Crown, which is absolutely fine. So these are the winning deck lists. Nothing extremely notable. I think from here, Ambler Whale is also cut for Access Code and Selene, probably. We are seeing the Heat Soul, the usual suspects, so no Anima and no Amblo. And in place of that, Selene and Access Code, just because it makes for a very easy OTK. And then lastly, for the tech cards, Bestials. We're seeing a few variations of Bestials here. We're also seeing Mourner, but Bestials, probably for that IP Masquerade and the Grave, I would assume. Just before they said it, I think it's good because it manipulates the end board significantly. Otherwise, you just have to end on a Link 4, which, kind of sucks on its own. So yeah, we're seeing Ambler Whale cut, we're seeing Bestials back in. And now let's talk about two spicier things about this YCS. Sam.
Advance to the battle phase, so that would be the opportunity.
Dangerous. That was very dangerous. Almost misstep there.
Oh shit, goddamn. Soup. Yeah. All right, give me two.
Yeah. I believe based on what the casters said in the finals, or at the end of the finals at least, this actually cost Sam's team a game loss in the finals. I don't want to speculate. This is what the casters said. So it seems like they started off with a loss already in the finals. Now, another thing I want to talk about, I've seen some people mentioning this on Twitter, and I really want to discuss that. We've seen this feature match, which was obviously like people wanted to see this match. Last time we saw these two in a mirror, it was tier elements format. It was a really, really iconic, high-skilled game. Hani won that too, if I remember correctly. But a lot of people were like, hey, Hani's disrespectful. He was shit-talking a little bit. I think we need to, the game makers and the game designers and the judges and the casters, the whole stream environment is not really mature enough because they still look at it as a kid's game. This is why someone might get a game loss for cursing, which is, saying shit on stream. Yeah. Usually like in esports, you would get fined for that. They cannot fine you here. So I assume it might be fair. I mean, even though it's like, there's no harm to anyone. I'm not 100% sure about the policy, but again, it might be a little bit of offensive behavior or unsporting conduct, depending on what's the ruling. But Hani, after winning game 1 pretty nicely, game 2 he was left top decking, and he goes to Pac, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat you, and points at the deck, and he's like, yeah, on God, I'm gonna top deck right now, and I'm gonna win this. He was shit talking. I think that's fair, especially in a 3v3 environment. Even though, if somebody did this to me in a duel, especially Pac was super composed. If somebody did that to me, I would have been a little bit pissed because, I'm trying to concentrate and somebody's shit talking about the game. But I think we, as a community overall, should be able to grow up a little bit. People getting game losses, presumably for swearing. People reacting really poorly to shit talking, which is part of sport. I think it's okay. I think it was really funny to see because Hani was hyping himself up. He was like, I'm gonna top deck a bonfire right now. He didn't. He was like, scoop. So that was fun. I mean, it's fun. Shit talk and getting beat by your own shit talking, it's okay. Eventually, he was playing arrogantly. He was talking to his teammates. I think in a 3v3 environment, it's a bit different because you get to actually interact with your teammates mid-game, and that's fine, right? That's okay. So he goes shows his brother his hand, and he's like, this is the best hand I've ever seen. and Pack makes the read. Yeah, you have a summon limit. Big whoop, right? Watch this game over, just this game specifically, to know what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it. Yeah. Again, Hani, LeBlanc, Hissam winning the Team YCS. Fire King, Snake Eye, no surprise. Kind of weird deck lists. I would really love to hear your thoughts about this. I think we covered everything. Oh, we haven't covered one last thing, which was this thing. I wanted to include it because I'm not going to make a video about it. I think this is another showing of how detached this game is and why you don't ever see this on my channel, because these ban lists are a joke. Meow Moo and King of the Swamp getting released. Exceed to 2, Soul Piercer to 2, Water Enchanter to 2, and Branded Opening to 1. Sure thing, buddy. Would you please, again, remember to check out sleevechief.de, because the new Saiyajin collection and restock is live right now, so you can get a ton of merch to your doorstep, 5% off using Galzo5. Appreciate you hanging around for this update of YCS Vegas, and I'll see you in more videos throughout the week. Love you guys. Peace. Have a good one.